So good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Swannanoa Valley. My name is Leif Nepstead and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Here on Montreat Road, we are a welcoming congregation standing together on the side of love and justice. And one of the biggest things for me is that we walk through this life with open hearts and open minds, and as one of my favorites, we don't have to think alike to love alike. First things first, please silence or turn off your cell phones. And one of the traditions we have here is to welcome visitors. So to welcome our first and second time visitors, or those who haven't been here in a while. So if you're willing and able, please stand, introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from. And I'll start over on this side here.
Hi, I'm Matt, visiting from Bremerton, Washington.
Welcome.
Will and Kinsey Pope, moved from Virginia, from all over. We live here now.
Welcome.
And I'm Tim Parks from Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, last chance over here. Huh? One more? Two more? No? Okay. Then we'll go over here on the right side.
Hi, I'm Jen McCarter from Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Welcome. All right, awesome. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming. And we also want to take time to do our land acknowledgement. We want to remind ourselves that the land we are currently on was native land. We respect and value the people and culture of that land that was taken. Take a moment to read our statement here. The UU-CSV acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the ancestral home of the Cherokee and other indigenous people. The Cherokee, through stewardship, understanding, and conservation, survive and thrive in this land, and we acknowledge their enduring connection to their homeland. Also, please take note of the 8 principles on the back of your handouts. Those are quite nice to refresh yourself on as well. And announcements about the happenings in our congregation and community can be submitted for posting in our weekly newsletter. They're current. And please check the bulletin board out in the lobby as well. Now let us take the time we spend together in this place to make us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than we had arrived here this morning. And let our service begin.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to see you. It's a beautiful morning. I guess you're interested in the fall of Rome. We're going to somewhere. Yeah, okay. All right. Opening words from Unitarian Universalist Barbara Merritt. Unitarian Universalists have said for centuries that there is room in our religion for all seekers. Skeptics and poets and scientists are welcome here, as are nonconformist and shy and uncertain people. We believe probably most important. We believe that restlessness and doubts are a sign of grace, and that love and the love of truth is the holiest of gifts. Thank you. So, with that said, please rise as you are willing and able, and join in singing our opening hymn this morning, Bring, O Morn, Thy Music, number 39. Please be seated. Our reading this morning will be just something a little different I wanted to share with you to set the table for our talk this morning. It's the similarities between the American Empire and the Roman Empire. Ancient Rome was founded around 70 BCE, and it collapsed around 45 BCE. And so I want to share with you the striking parallels, at least for now. We have hope, things can change in the twinkling of an eye, so to speak. But it's still our structure that needs to change. Otherwise, in 4 to 8 years, we'll be back at this place going, oh, is she going to get elected? He's going to get elected. So we have to make some basic structural changes in this experiment of a multiracial democracy. So, as with Rome, just before the collapse, we seem to be making the same mistakes, and we model ourselves after Rome, the founding fathers did. There's a staggering increase in the cost of elections and dubious campaign funding sources. In 2012, the election cost about $3 billion. All of it was raised from private sources, which creates the appearance or the reality that our leaders are beholden to special interest groups. During the late Roman Republic, elections became so staggeringly expensive that Julius Caesar, borrowed so heavily he feared he would be bankrupt if he did not get elected. Politics as the road to personal wealth. During the late Roman period, one of the main roads to wealth was holding public office and exploiting such positions to accumulate personal wealth. The focus is therefore not so much on the people who sent the folks to Washington. The focus is instead on those who will make them rich. Rome did the same thing. Continuous war. My daughter now lives, well, she's lived all her life in a country that has always been at war with someone. She's 18 years old. Similar to the late Roman Republic, there's a national state of security. There's always some type of national security event, similar to the Roman Republic. For the last 100 years, we've either been fighting a war, recovering from a war, or preparing for a new war. World War I and II, Cold War, Korean War, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, which is, well, that was a mess. In Iraq, the list is far from complete. We have troops in Africa now. We always did. You've heard of Africa Command, but why? Why is this happening? Foreign powers lavish money, attention on the Republic's leaders. Foreign wars lead to growing influence by foreign powers and interest. It was true for Rome and it's true for us. In the past century, foreign embassies, agents, and lobbyists have proliferated our nation's capital. One foreign businessman donated $100 million to Bill Clinton's campaign. He said Clinton opened doors for him. I'm sure he probably shined his shoes as well. This is unheard of. Profits made overseas shape the Republic's internal policies. As the fortunes of Rome's aristocracy derived its wealth from foreign lands, Roman policy was shaped to facilitate these fortunes. American billionaires and corporations increasingly influence our elections. In many cases, well, it's just a mess, I don't know. Collapse of the middle class, Rome had the same thing. Before the Republic fell, there was no Roman middle class, destroyed by cheap overseas slave labor. In our own day, we've witnessed rising inequality, a stagnating middle class, and the loss of American jobs overseas. Here's one I didn't know about, gerrymandering. Rome's late republic used various methods to reduce the power of common citizens. Do I need to say any more? Loss of the spirit of compromise. The Roman Republic, like ours, relied on a system of checks and balances. Compromise is needed to sustain that. In the end, they lost their spirit of compromise, and politics polarized the empire. It's also notably short in our time. There were more filibusters between 2009 and 2010 than there were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s combined. We'll talk more about that. This is the time in the service when we invite you to share a joy, a concern. For those of you new, this is one of our UU rituals. There are several others, water communion, flower communion, those types of things. In UU Christian churches, we still have communion for our predominantly Christian churches. This is our unique ritual, and so we invite you to come and light a candle, or if you like one of the other elements, we have water here, and you can drop a stone in and silently do your thing. The floor is yours. Does anyone need me to bring them the stones? Before we do the meditation, just know for those of you who, for whatever reason, didn't want to come up, we keep you in our thoughts and prayers and hearts and minds. There was one thing I did want to share with you before we do the poem as a meditation. The GOP has so effectively gerrymandered congressional districts that even though House Republican candidates received only about 48% of the popular vote in 2012, they ended up with the majority. They ended up with 53% of the seats. You know, so history does repeat itself. I want to share with you, as our meditation this morning, and we'll have our time of quiet afterwards. It's a 1940 poem by Auden, W.H. Auden, and it's comparing Rome with what he sees as the bleak realities of modern life in the United States at the time. Cultural decadence, intellectual, well, I'll say laziness for lack of a better word, bureaucratic incompetence. Edward Gibbon talked about this in The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Auden's poem is talking about these things, and he says that meanwhile, little birds are waiting to take over from us, and the reindeer don't even care. So, this is, close your eyes, or however you want to do it, and listen to this. It's brilliant, actually. The Fall of Rome. The piers are pummeled by the waves. In a lonely field, the rain lashes an abandoned train. Outlaws fill the mountain caves. Fantastic grow the evening gowns. Agents of the fisc pursue absconding tax defaulters through the sewers of provincial towns. Private rites of magic send the temple prostitutes to sleep. All the literati keep an imaginary friend. Cerebrotonic Cato may extol the ancient disciplines, but the muscle-bound Marines mutiny for food and pay. Caesar's double bed is warm, as an unimportant clerk writes, "I do not like my work," on a pink official form. Unendowed with wealth or pity, little birds with scarlet legs, sitting on their speckled eggs, each eye the flu-infected city. Altogether elsewhere, vast herds of reindeer move across miles and miles of golden moss, silently and very fast. And now, while our minds are one for this brief moment anyway, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. We skipped a hymn. So let's sing it. And I'll ask you for money. I'll ask you for money afterwards. Please rise as you are willing and able and join us for hymn number 170. We are a gentle but angry people. Please be seated. We now collect this morning's offering. of Revelation, and I know I would get some disagreement from my more evangelical brothers and sisters, but if you read some Greek, and if you know the history at the time, of course the argument is trying to tie Revelations into what's going on now, which you can. I mean, some things are really uncanny. But in the book of Revelation, the word Babylon is a code word for the Roman Empire. And when John was exiled to the island of Patmos, and his book was written about 90 years after the crucifixion, it is the word that the disciple John uses as he describes the vision of what is and what was to come. And if you read Roman history, you know, evangelicals will tie this in to us, and you can argue it if John is seeing into the future, but a lot of the things that he prophesied did happen when the temple came down in Rome in 70 CE. You know, I like football, and I like professional football, and I remember watching a Thursday night game back in 2014, September 12th, 2014 to be exact, and I can remember that, but I can't remember the hymns, but it's okay. You have to have priorities. Baltimore Ravens linebacker Terrell Suggs, he ran onto the field. This brother's huge. He ran onto the field during the pregame introduction, and he had a Roman gladiator mask. And people flipped, man. I mean, it was the Colosseum. And when they asked him why he did it, he said, you know, I'm just trying to get the folks pumped up, you know, but that's bred in circuses, right? Yeah, the Christians and the Lions. Lions undefeated. Boom, boom. Anyway, the game was played at, inappropriate, I'm sorry. It was played at the M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, not the Roman Coliseum. Suggs removed the mask and he played in his traditional uniform, thank God. But the question becomes, you know, what is empire? Are we Rome? Some would say yes, some would say no. I say yes, but we don't have to be. Rome was once a republic. Some would say America was also a republic at one time. I don't know, it's difficult because a republic is defined as a state where supreme power is headed by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. In its embryonic states, our nation, the United States of America, women and people of color were having an extremely difficult time, to say the least. One race was enslaved, one race was being eradicated through genocide, one portion of our population was being kept barefoot and pregnant, and none of these groups had the right to vote. That doesn't sound like a republic to me. Now, you know, the circumstances are changing, and some people want to go back, and you know, that probably won't happen. But I like to think of our experiment, because I don't believe, and I never really did believe that we lived in a democracy. I always felt that this is something we were striving for. And Dr. Cornel West phrases it this way, that American democracy is an experiment. We are still learning how to live in a multicultural, multiracial democracy. Now, Rome did at one time. You could be a Roman citizen. They had generals that were not Roman. I thought about Colin Powell when I was reading about this brother from Africa who was a Roman general. I forget his name, but I can get that for you. So it's a grand experiment. It's a noble one, but it is an experiment nonetheless. Don't kid yourselves, you see. So I don't believe that we wanted to become an empire. I don't think that's what we started out wanting to do, but after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. dramatically, just go back and go over that part of history, ended its long isolation. We're over here. That was what blew the mind of people when I felt when on 9/11, because we have a natural isolation from a good part of the globe because of the Atlantic Ocean. But people brought the war here. We haven't really experienced war except the Civil War, horrific as that was. So we were kind of isolationist. But when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, we went into World War II. And I'm bringing this up because sometimes we have historical amnesia, and as Americans. And so in our drive to protect the so-called free world from what we were told and believed was Soviet imperial designs, and to fight communism and to take over, and I go to bed every night, I'm afraid the communists are coming. We were told about the domino theory. The US made the world secure for capitalism. For capitalism. And in effect, we constructed an empire, because you have to. Even if you don't want to, you have to protect your interests. For those who would argue against contemporary America being a reincarnation of the Roman Empire, you got to see the similarities. I mean, televised sports with its food and drink and other conveniences as bread and circuses, or the way we treat our immigrants who venture south from the border as barbarian hordes. Our political pollsters are modern-day oracles. They don't seek their clues in the entrails of owls or in the flights of birds or slaughtered sheep, but they predict the success or downfall of our political leaders in opinion polls. The president's aides are the new Praetorian Guard, and probably the most glaring is that we have encircled the globe with our legions. We have encircled every country with the Marines or the Army or the Navy. That smells like empire. The Roman Empire could not, and the American Empire cannot get enough of laws or lawyers and lawsuits. And I don't know, sometimes I think the more laws you have, the more corrupt you are. We both believe deeply in private property. We both relish in the humiliation of public figures, both Rome and America through comedy and satire, but contemporary America through podcast and talk radio and court TV. Both Rome and America accepted enormous disparities of wealth and allowed the gap to widen. Ramsey MacMullen, one of the most prominent modern historians of Rome, has said that 6 centuries, probably now, of imperial social evolution can be reduced to just 3 words. Fewer have more. The American eagle and the Roman eagle, what do we need to say about that? The comparisons to Rome are either a grim warning or, hopefully, a call to action, depending on who you're talking to. The Pax Americana that may have once existed was strictly because of our military might. And remember, we could split the atom, and we did over a couple of civilian cities. But just as it was during the Roman Empire, they ruled by military might. Our difficulties in Iraq and Afghanistan, in Iran, in Lebanon, in North Korea, and elsewhere are seen by other people as it's just part of being an empire. It's a glitch in the matrix. It's a bump in the road. I'm going to Europe next week for a vacation, and I'm going to visit a friend in Amsterdam. And I always kept in touch with him, and I have a couple other friends in different parts of the world. But it's interesting to be able to get a sort of reality check when I say, what do we look like to you over there? Not that we have to react to every critique or observation, but just like human beings have to reflect, nations have to as well. The Roman poet Virgil was quoted as saying in his poem, the Aeneid, "Remember, Roman, that it is yours to lead other people. It is your special gift. Former Secretary of State, the late Madeleine Albright, said, "We are the indispensable nation. We stand tall. We see further into the future." Charles Krathaumer, Pulitzer Prize-winning syndicated columnist and political author, says this: "America is no mere international citizen. It is the dominant power in the world, more dominant than any since Rome. America is in a position to reshape norms, alter expectations, and create new realities. How? By unapologetic and implacable demonstrations of will." I see that as military might. William Crystal, used to be the editor of the conservative Weekly Standard, says that people want to say we're imperial power, so what? Others see the American Empire as dangerously overextended abroad, just as the Roman Empire was in the last 200 years before its collapse. It took Rome time to build that up. But because of our technology, we are doing this at the speed of FedEx. But imperial overreach is always the culprit. It takes money to keep troops around the world. It takes money to support this overreach. And we spend a lot of money. A lot of our budget goes to military might. Our military ambitions around the globe have exceeded our capacity to pay for them. If you've been keeping up, the armed forces are concerned because a lot of people don't want to join. A lot of people don't want to join. Another part of the problem is moral and political. Empires destroy liberty. They always have, and they always will. You can't say that you promote peace around the globe when you're the largest distributor of sellers of arms. You just can't do it. You can't do it. Our imperial need for secrecy, surveillance, and social control, all in the name of national security, is concerning. Dr. King put it this way, so this has been going on. He says, in spite of these spectacular strides in science and technology, and still unlimited ones to come, something basic is missing. There's a sort of poverty of the spirit which stands in glaring contrast to our scientific and technological abundance. The richer we have become materially, the poorer we have become morally and spiritually. We've learned to fly the air like birds and swim the sea like fish, but we have not learned the simple art of living together as brothers and sisters. He also said that a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs and education and social uplift is approaching spiritual doom. Yet President Bush, George W., in August 31, from his ranch in Crawford, Texas, at that time known as the Bush Bungalow, said that our nation is the greatest force for good in history. But you know, yeah, I know. It's just a different way of seeing things. But he's really no different from many Americans of our time now. He refuses to see the times have changed. Demographics have certainly changed, plus all the nervousness around immigration. America's getting browner even as we speak. But he refuses to see that the United States of America dominates the world by military power. We don't have many diplomats. They've been cut down, and yes, when Trump got rid of a lot of them, but you know, we got rid of a lot of our diplomats, but also we started putting military people in the government in high-ranking positions, which is always a clue to when you're going a little too far in a certain direction when you have your military holding key positions in government. We've witnessed firsthand, whether we wanted to or not, the militarization of our nation's police force. Due to government secrecy and, of course, laziness, our populace is often ignorant to the fact that our legions garrison the globe. Our country has military bases on every continent except Antarctica, and I may be wrong about that. So our military bases form it constitutes a form of empire. But as I said, they are expensive to maintain. We operate secret bases outside of our country to monitor other people. We monitor our own citizens, faxing and listening and emailing one another. You know that. You know people, listen to everything you say. You know that. You do, right? Our military and industrial installations bring enormous profits to the Halliburtons of the world and other civilian industries. And we like to say that Americans like to say that the world changed after 9/11. But it would be more accurate to say that the attacks produced a dangerous change in the thinking of our leaders, who began to see our nation as a new empire, a new Rome, no longer bound by international law. We do what we want to do. The concerns of our allies, we don't have any constraints. The dark side about why we were attacked, people are jealous of us. You remember that? People believe that. It's just that they're just jealous of our freedoms. They're just jealous of our freedoms. Why do they hate us? People are starting to realize now, especially the younger people, we'll see it in the upcoming elections, that the world is changing. And you can't look at the world through a 1950s prism. It just does not work for any of the Western leaders. It just doesn't work anymore. The military has become expert at managing the news. We start hearing things like preemptive war. What does that mean? That if I get nervous, I will attack you? It's preemptive? People speak openly of regime change. We talk openly, our nation, about, we're thinking about regime change here. We're thinking about a preemptive war. Insurgents, collateral damage, it's okay. That's just part of war. Insurgencies. How can you be an insurgent in your own country? Illegal combatants. Last I checked, the so-called founding fathers of this nation were insurgents against Britain. And so the result has been perpetual war, never-ending war. Have you ever thought about that? It's hard because we're privileged and we live over here in relative safety. Never-ending war. How long can that go on? Eventually, something's going to get out of hand. While we've been celebrating certain political events, did you know that Ukraine is into Russia now with American weapons? This is how world wars are started. This is how world wars are started. But you know, there's always a distraction. There's a game on today. I'm guilty of it too, but I try to at least keep up. But this is not Mickey Mouse that we're talking about. Because Putin could just say, you know what, I'm getting a little sick and tired of being sick and tired. Of course, it'll be spun differently over here. And everybody's guilty. It's not like the United States, we're always a force for good. That's simply not true. The term blowback is a CIA term used to describe unanticipated consequences of unacknowledged actions in other people's countries. We call it karma, some of us. Blowback is simply another way of saying that a nation reap what it sows. So, what does that have to do with us as UUs? I'm glad you asked. Because believe it, I'm not here to depress you. For those of you new, we talk about a lot of things here. But I just try to remind folks that it's not all John Lennon's Imagine or Kumbaya. We live in the world. We're part of this. So it's not always going to be a feel-good kind of morning. But there is hope. As UUs, we must come to grips, if we haven't already, that empire is a direct frontal assault on the 8 principles. That's just the way it is. We are already known, for those of you who first time here, you come from a more traditional Christian background, we are already known to be religious heretics. And I believe rightly so. We are free thinkers and nonconformists. We choose to think differently about many issues. But I believe that no matter who is president, we need to take our principles seriously, because some will consider us to be enemies of the state. We are looked at that way by more conservative groups. I say let's be proud of that. Now, I want to be clear for new people here. We are in no way involved in a plot against the empire. We are humble subjects of the empire. The state has nothing to fear from us, except the fact that we gather together to create a more fair, a more just, and a more equitable and peaceful world. Guilty as charged. But don't kid yourselves this morning. Holding on to our principles and values, holding on to having the audacity to love, still is and always will be a revolutionary act. At least to my mind. There is no divine mandate that says we are to be the policemen of the whole world. It's arrogant and it's untenable, but there are no easy answers. So here we stand at this moment in history with the Middle East and with Ukraine and other trouble spots. And we know that whatever happens, the empire will strike back. And then they'll strike back against us. And we'll strike back against them. And in Buddha, it's called the logic of absurdity. And on it goes. We can never, ever, ever defer to empire. You can't. We can't. Ever. Militarism, arrogance of power, materialism, and old-fashioned imperialism is running rampant through the streets, and it conflicts with the government we say we want to have. It distorts our basic values. We have to be careful because this is how empires crumble. We have to be vigilant. I just want to share this with you in closing. There's a wonderful book I had to read in seminary. It's called Jesus and Empire. It's by Richard Horsley. And Jesus never said that we have to tear down empire. Well, you couldn't. Rome, where you saw he got that message. But how do we survive in empire? How do we treat one another in empire? How do we maintain our dignity, our sense of what is just in empire? And it calls to mind this story you may remember. It's in Mark. After much flowery language to hide their deceitfulness, these Pharisees and Sadducees, and they were talking to Jesus, and they were being very effusive and telling him how wonderful he was, and by treating people equally and those kinds of things. But they tried to trap him, and they said to him, "You are righteous, you are just. Let us ask you a question. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" Slick. If he answered yes, he was a collaborator with Roman imperialism. To answer no was treason. Clever. So the good rabbi asked someone, give me a coin, and they gave him a coin. He looked at the face of Caesar on the coin, and he said, does everyone see who's on the coin here? And the answer was yes, it's the face of Caesar. And Jesus said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are brilliant. Brilliant. I would have been beaten and nailed to a piece of wood. Because I'd have said something dumb or whatever. Be nice. This is what we're called to do. This is what we're called to do. If you don't like the word of God, put something else there, whatever you wish. But just remember, we can render to the state that which belongs to the state. But we are Unitarian Universalists. Our inner lives are ours, and the way we choose to live it. No Caesar, no empire can take it from us, unless, of course, we choose to give it away. On September 18, 1787, according to journalist James McHenry, a woman by the name of Elizabeth Willing Powell, after the signing of the Constitution, asked Ben Franklin, well, doctor, what do you say? What do we got? A republic or a monarchy? So you know what he said, right? A republic, if you can keep it. Our closing hymn this morning. Number 144, now is the time approaching. Hymn number 144. Please rise as you are willing and able. Okay, let's show some stones some love. Woo! Thank you, Sue. Okay, this is a little longer than usual, but bear with me. May God bless you with a restless discomfort about easy answers, half-truths, superficial relationships, so that you may seek truth boldly and love deep within your heart. May God bless you with holy anger at injustice, oppression, exploitation of people, so that you may tirelessly work for justice, freedom, and peace among all people. May God bless you with the gift of tears to shed for those who suffer from pain and rejection and starvation, or the loss of everything that they cherish, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and transform their pain into joy. And finally, may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world. And so that you can.